Do I need to form an LLC for my business? Do I even need an LLC to start a business? In this video, I'll be super simplifying how to choose what type of business to form and when to form it. Amanda here from the Business Finance Coach, where I'm simplifying the tools of business so that you can succeed. If any of this sounds like stuff you could use in your life, you can join us here in this community by clicking the watermark in the bottom right corner of your video screen and subscribe while still watching this video. Back to, do I even need an LLC? When to form, what type of business, and why to form it? What does it do for you? And when? Why? Which one to choose? All of it. Super simple in a few minutes. So first things first, do I need an LLC to start a business? No, you do not need to form any type of business. You can just start a business. You can sell something to someone and you can just do it. You don't have to form a business at all. You can just be you and you can sell something. And when you do that, you are a sole proprietor. Without forming anything, you are automatically a sole proprietor. Unless you're working with someone else and you guys are partners, then you have a partnership, which can simply be based on a verbal agreement, even though you didn't form any business. Now, that being said, while you don't have to actually form a business, you will just be a sole proprietor or a partnership, you still may have requirements to register with your state. Also, if you've thrown up a name, Amanda's Accounting Services, for example, you would need to register that name under what's called a DBA or a trademark with your state. And you can just search your state website. You don't need to use all of these LegalZoom and different websites. You're just giving them the same information and some extra money to do the same thing you could do on your state website. Save yourself a few dollars. That's what I do for you here. Head on over to your state website. So we covered that you do not have to ever form a business, a legitimate business. You automatically do that by selling things and starting a business. You're either a sole proprietor or a partnership. That being said, you can also form a business entity through a state government. This is a legal entity, just like you are a legal person. Under legal law, you can create a separate entity from yourself. This makes your business separate from you. So what does it mean to go form an actual business entity with a state government? Your state government, presumably where you're working. That's where you want to form. To answer this question, when to form the business, we first need to look at what types of businesses can be formed through state governments, because it's going to depend on what type of business structure you choose as to when you should form it. We are going to come back around to the LLC as being the primary recommendation in this video, but this will help you understand why and understand so much more about the business. We have a few different options, okay? The LLC, a formal partnership for which there are many types: limited liability partnership, general partnership, corporation, or a nonprofit. Those are kind of the basic types of businesses that you can form. So which one of these businesses would you choose? This comes down to two things. It comes down to primarily your business model, how your business is structured. For example, if you are one person just providing a service as a contractor, you would never want to form a corporation, and you're not allowed to form a partnership because you're one person. So your only other option is the single member LLC. And the LLC really is the go-to for any small business. That's because a corporation is a very complex structure. You have to use a board of directors, and you have owners that buy stock in the company and are the owners who are separate from the managers. So when would you use a corporation? You use a corporation if you are going to get funding in the business. And typically, that's a general rule. You're going to get a lot of funding into the business, and you're doing something where you need a lot of people involved in the business. Mind you, this is also how many founders get fired from their own business, i.e. Steve Jobs, remember Apple? So for most small business owners, the corporation is out of the picture. I see way too many small businesses going out there and forming a corporation because in the past that was the only option. And so yeah, you had to do it if you wanted to be a legitimate business, you're making legitimate money. These days, the LLC, the recent innovation of the LLC, has declared the corporation irrelevant for us small business owners. You don't need it. And it really complicates things. You have to be willing to spend, seriously, 10 grand to start a corporation. So for most small businesses, the LLC makes a lot of sense. And generally, if you have 2 or more members, you would still do the LLC over the partnership for what I'm going to talk about next. But the LLC really is the replace all. It's much easier to maintain, operate, form. And so it's really replaced the corporations and partnership structures, especially for the small business owner. Okay, so the big question, when do you form an LLC for your small business? From the technical standpoints, if you have a lot of assets, house, retirement plans, those sorts of things, the whole entire purpose of legal business entities was to protect your assets and allow the business to take out loans that you aren't responsible for. Now, that's no longer the case for small businesses because no one gives you a loan without you personally backing it anyways. So that's pretty much irrelevant to the conversation. However, you still have assets that you want to protect. You also might be interested in protecting your future earnings because if you mess up, if you are sued, and they look at the money you have and say, oh, you don't have any, they say, well, you're going to earn some in the future. And so we can attach to your future earnings. So that brings me to the second consideration of when to form an LLC. If you're in a high sue industry, which, I mean, if you're doing things right, it really shouldn't matter. You shouldn't be sued either way. But there are certainly some industries that are higher sued, and this is kind of the legal recommendation. If you have assets and things you want to protect, or if you're in a high sue industry, maybe medical related or construction actually I think is pretty high, then you would want to consider forming the LLC right out the gate to protect you. What happens if the LLC is sued? As long as you've maintained it properly, which I will talk about next, then you would just close the business if they attach to the LLC's future earnings. It's a very semantic system, but you got to check your boxes and dot the T's and I's. So in reality, though, I find most people form an LLC because they want an LLC on the name of their business. And they want to be like, look, I'm legitimate. And it is true that it does give you a little bit of, you've done the steps, you're here to stay, you're around, but I don't really recommend forming an LLC before getting some clients because otherwise you might put all this time into doing an LLC when you don't even have an idea yet that really gets traction, or maybe you're just personally not ready to get traction. And so you can waste a lot of time and energy on these technical steps when in reality you could hire someone to take care of all this stuff for you if you just focus on actually getting the business started. Worth mentioning here is the fourth point for how to maintain an LLC, because if you do not maintain the LLC, then it actually doesn't exist or do any of the things we just talked about it doing, including providing limited liability. So this is precisely why I don't recommend for most people without assets to protect bothering to set up the LLC until you've gotten some traction and cash flow so that you can invest the time, money, or resources that it takes to follow the rules. To maintain a business, you must keep it separate from your personal money meeting minutes, which is basically like a business plan or your own notes if you're just a single owner. Also, along with that money being kept separate, of course, you need complete and accurate accounting records to track that money. Now, that brings me to one last and final point. If all you want is a name that sounds snappy, You can go out and file a DBA or a trademark with your state for a name. Just to give you a quick recap, when you choose the type of business to form, it should be based on how you operate. You only need a corporation if you need a whole team of experts to help you in your business. The LLC is really the most common type of business these days. You can form it with one member and it keeps things nice and simple for you as a single owner, or you can form it with 2 or more members. The benefit to this is called limited liability, which protects your assets. If you're ever sued, people can't take these from you as long as you maintain your LLC separate business entity, which to do that, you need to keep separate money, all separate business bank accounts, accurate accounting records, and meeting minutes, which are essentially business plans. The technical reasons for forming a business are you're in a high sue industry, or you have a lot of assets and things that you're concerned about possibly losing if you were ever sued. That's why you hear about sometimes people will just sue a business or sue someone who's rich. It's that type of thing. If you have assets, you might as well invest the little bit of money to form the LLC and do things right to protect yourself. If you have no money, then there's no point in stressing out about this. Just go out there and make some money. Don't waste time on this step when you've got to be getting money in. And that about does it. If you're thinking about forming a business or you formed a business and you have questions, I would love to hear from you in the comments below. Otherwise, if you're looking at wanting to calculate your estimated taxes so you have stress-free taxes, woohoo! Click here and head on over to my website and get my free training. Otherwise, do join us here at the Business Finance Coach. If you've made it this far, I'm sure you want to check out more videos as well. Click here to join us. Otherwise, you should be seeing a video matched to your interest right about here. Do check it out and let me know what you think. Love to hear from you. See you next time. Bye.